We've officially reached that point in history where Borderlands is no longer considered a cool franchise. In the conversation of games that pioneered the industry, I feel like Borderlands unfairly gets left out. Amazing art direction, iconic gameplay, plus the series is actually pretty funny when it's ready, and genuinely heartfelt when it needs to be. Everything about Borderlands exists in this schism where the only other thing I can describe it as is Borderlands. So when a movie was announced a few years back, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hyped. I mean, I'm one of the few idiots that still thinks the Mass Effect movie is gonna happen. It's not, by the way. So I will take any new content from a franchise I like. The first trailer came out and I remember waiting for my mom to get back from home so we could watch it together. We turned the TV on and, like, you know that one gif of Diver Wimpy Kid with Rowley where he's like, that's just about how I felt. I never ended up going to the movies to watch it, but on a really long plane ride back from England, I ended up seeing it as an option, and so I figured, you know, it's either this or I open up the air vent. And so I figured to myself, yeah, I won't miss these 2 hours on my deathbed. Why the freak not? And before you ask, yes, the film is awful. Easily one of the worst adaptations of anything I have ever seen ever. And I actually don't think that I'm exaggerating in saying that. It's clear that's what audiences thought as well, because this film ended up losing the production company $100 million. And so it got me wondering, how on earth could they fumble this hard in the year of our Lord and Savior 2024? By the way, I wrote this script in 2024. So I did some research on this film's production, and I think I have an answer. This is why the Borderlands movie failed, or whatever I decide to title this video. It's okay, nobody watches these anyway. Y'all don't want to hear me, y'all just want to dance. But before we get started, if this is your first time visiting my channel, hi, my name is Rayshawn Gibson. I make video essays on whatever the freak I want, typically whatever schizophrenia riddle tangents my mind can drum up. If you enjoy this video at any point, please press that like button, and honestly subscribe. You'll probably like what I make next. It really helps me out in the long term, and it also helps me to gauge how you're feeling. To the video we go. In the beginning, October 20th, 2009, a comedy first-person shooter game called Borderlands comes out, and it is a good game. It sold over 2 million copies and was enjoyed by gamers and critics alike. 3 years later, a sequel comes out called Borderlands 2, which, in all honesty, kind of made the first game look like a word I'm not allowed to say on this channel. To compare to Borderlands' 2 million, Borderlands 2 sold 30 million copies and was released on basically everything on Earth. To put that into perspective, I had this game on the PlayStation Vita. It was ugly as sin, but I had it. Seeing the massive success they had on their hands, Gearbox Software started some secret combinations. With the ever-increasing quality of computer-generated effects and the potential lucrativeness of the film industry, just about every video game with story had a live-action movie greenlit. And I really mean all of them. They literally had Elijah Woods playing Spyro the Dragon.
Have to stop him. It's up to Spyro yet again to save the day.
And the Borderlands folk wanted the same. This movie was originally announced back in 2015, and obviously they were hoping to release it in a few years. I'm sure you can see how that panned out. Now, what usually comes first when you're making a movie, you gotta have a producer. Gearbox hires Avi and Aria Rod of Arad Productions. I don't want to be that guy. This was this movie's first L. If you don't know what a producer actually does, they're the persons in charge of overseeing the actual production of a movie. They make sure the film stays within budgets. They hire the director and production staff. They handle the money and liaise with the executives. When the first set of outlines for the plot are done, they choose the script that'll fit the movie best. They do a lot and have a lot more to do with the production of a movie than we ever give them credit for. That's why Kevin Feige is so incredibly important to the MCU and why James Gunn is so important to the DCU now. A perfect cast only comes from a good casting director, and a good casting director only gets hired when you have a good producer. Well, you're probably wondering, well, Rayshawn, what's so bad with the Arads? I would sooner trust my dog with a crack pipe before I trust Avi Arad with my favorite franchise. You can put that on my tombstone. At the very least, my dog won't burn $100 million. Don't believe me? That hurts. I thought we had something special. Let's go through each of his related non-superhero adaptations into live action. And you tell me if you would trust this man with your favorite franchise. 2007's Bratz, Scarlett Johansson's Ghost in the Shell, Tom Holland's Uncharted, Morbius, Borderlands, Kraven the Hunter. Hi, so editor's note, while doing research for this video, I found out he's also producing a live action Naruto movie because, you know, he just loves anime so much, and the upcoming Legend of Zelda live action film. So take from that what you will. This is solely my opinion, so I hope nobody gets upset with me saying this, but I feel like Avi Arad specifically is like the Illumination Entertainment of producers. He was good once upon a time, but for the last decade, he just throws money because he knows he'll make money. He gets budgets in the hundreds of millions, but for some reason, they always feel soulless. Like they're hard carried by the cast and crew, but they're meant to meet quotas, not necessarily passion. And you can see his lack of care all over this movie. A regular trait for the Arads is having an okay script with a massive freaking portion of the budget dedicated to the cast. Speaking of which, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the cast. It's awful. It actually feels like they casted 2/3 of this movie with the intent of rage baiting me specifically. Why is Cate Blanchett playing someone who is supposed to be in their early to mid 20s? Why is Jack Black voicing Claptrap when his already established voice actor can voice him? He's a robot that doesn't exist. He's CGI, computer generated. Why is Kevin Hart pretending to be tall? The most open palm to the face for me would have to be Jamie Lee Curtis playing Dr. Patricia Tannis. I do not mind Jamie Lee Curtis. The woman is old enough to be my grandmother. We make fun of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies for having 401k owner playing high school kids. We just ignore this for this? Okay, let me dial it back a little bit. There actually were some good choices mixed in. I really like Florian Montagneux as Krieg. It's kind of dumb to me that he's dubbed over in this, and he's literally given no depth in the movie whatsoever. I like Ariana Greenblatt as Tina. I think with a better director and a better script, she could have honestly really popped off. Gina Gershon did her best as Mad Moxie, even if she was only in the movie for like 2 minutes. Dutch Vanderlyn plays Marcus Kincaid, which I think that was like one of the most inspired casting decisions ever. That was some fan service I never knew that I needed. I ragged on Jack Black earlier, but he actually does give a good performance with the script that he's given.
For a second there, I thought you weren't a horrible person. Phew, the world makes sense again.
And that's it. Everyone else was either horribly miscast or shouldn't have been in this movie in the first place. They had a golden opportunity on their hands to have a completely established franchise with its own established story. All they would need to do is tweak it a little bit, add some stuff to make it more feasible for a live action audience. And what they decided to do with that is make a completely new and original story that contradicts everything that's already been set up and just make it objectively worse. They put in these characters they thought would be marketable while simultaneously setting up nothing while also trying to sequel bait at the same time. Okay, so it's tangent time. I usually hate when YouTubers promise you a video essay and then when you click on the video, it's just them summarizing the movie that they're claiming to talk about. But I think it's safe to assume that you probably haven't seen this movie because only like 4 people have. 2 of them was me twice and the 3rd was my mom, who had to bawl and gag and beg to watch this movie with me, and only because it was for my YouTube channel that she even allowed it. So thank you, mother. I know you're watching this video. Thank you. Can we all say thank you to Mama Meadows? So in the hopes of getting you to understand the points that I'm trying to illustrate, I'm going to do my best at abridging the plot of this movie so you can hopefully follow along better. Let's hope I don't get yellow sign. Chapter 1. Flaws, flaws, flaws. The movie starts with a narration from our protagonist Lilith, played by Cate Blanchett. She explains that an ancient race left treasure behind in caves known as the vaults. At least that's what people think are in them because nobody's ever actually been inside one. It then cuts to Tina being broken out of a prison by famous Kaisenat guest star Roland. On their way out, they meet a psycho named Krieg. To my therapist, if you're watching this, that's not me being offensive, by the way. That's the term that they describe him as. My girl broken. Now I hope you took note of that, as that stands as one of 12 sentences he says over the course of this entire movie. We cut to a bar where our 24-year-old protagonist Lilith is wondering if she qualifies for pension yet. She gets approached by some thugs wanting to hire her to bring in Tina for a bounty. Lilith says she doesn't deal with kids, then kills these guys for no reason, only for their boss and our movie's completely original antagonist, Deucalion Atlas, that took me a while to pronounce, Deucalion Atlas, to appear. He gives her a high enough bounty for Lilith to agree to take the job. She gets back to her homeworld of Pandora and meets a robot named Claptrap that was apparently designed to find her in the case she ever decided to come back to Pandora. She snipes a psycho with what I can only imagine is a NyQuil suppository that steals their car and makes her way to Tina. After finding her, a fight breaks out that gets broken up when Atlas sends out another original character, Commander Nox. Nox tells them Atlas just hired Lilith to find Tina, and now that she's found her, they've decided to kill her so they won't have to pay her. Roland comes to the rescue and then gets mad at Lilith because she's, quote, a scumbag bounty hunter. A joke they repeat 5 more times. At the same time, Lilith decides to bring up her dead mother in a conversation that really doesn't call for it. They decide they'll find the vault keys themselves and stop Atlas from making their way inside. They end up in Mad Moxie's bar for intel on the vault, and she decides to bring up Lilith's dead mom too. She gets PO'd at the mention, which shows it's a touchy topic for her. Just then, Bobby Lee enters the picture, taking his first role that doesn't involve him assaulting someone.
You want me to do it again? What am I? What? Where are you going? And when I come here and you run away, it hurts my feelings.
That's why I stayed.
Okay.
Is this interview over?
Why?
Oh.
Why would you say something?
Ha 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 ha. See guys, it's funny because they told him to stop. Please don't check my hard drive. To the surprise of nobody, he was a mole. The Vault Hunters escape to find Dr. Patricia Tannis, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Turns out Tannis and Lilith have history because Lilith's mom originally left Tannis to raise her daughter once she died. Tannis didn't want to deal with a kid so she shipped her off and hasn't checked on her since then. They squash it for the time being and make their way to find the first vault key. They find out a dangerous psycho sect called the Bloodshots have it. They send Claptrap as a distraction and go for the key. They're having trouble finding it, only to see Lilith has a bizarre attraction that takes her directly to it. They make it out by the skin of their teeth, and to give this movie their flowers, this is actually a really good action scene, and they deserve praise for that. It's genuinely the only time in this movie where it actually feels like you're watching a Borderlands movie, so congrats guys. They have to fight through the sewer system, and it ends with Roland deciding to sacrifice himself to buy time for the others. He blows up the sewer, killing all of the Bloodshots with him. As they try to escape, they're teleported out of the sewer, with everyone suspecting Tina is the person who does it. Why Tina, you ask? Because Tina is actually the antagonist's daughter. But not actually. Tina is actually a clone using his DNA spliced with an Iridian's DNA to hopefully make a perfect alien baby, a siren. Remember that ancient species that she talked about earlier in the narration. His research makes them believe that on top of the vault key, a person is going to need a perfect Iridian in order to open the vault. The caveat with that, however, of all the children that they ran tests on, Tina is the only one to survive, which is why she was locked up at the beginning of the movie and why Roland was sent to break her out. I don't think he was actually sent, I think he actually did it of his own volition. Atlas originally planned to use her as the key to open the vault. The conflict with that, however, their research basically says that once that key is used, she dies. Talus briefs Lilith on all of this as they're regrouping. Claptrap shows up with Lilith's repaired beacon that she was supposed to use to report on her task. In an act of major bravery, she breaks it, signifying her character growth. Then 2 seconds later, Atlas sends a drone to deliver the same message anyways. Does this remind anyone else of a video game where your choices just like don't matter? This also raises the question to me, if Atlas knows where they are, why doesn't he just send in troops in the dead of night to just air that joint out while they're sleeping? Instead of giving Lilith this stereotypical monologue on what he's gonna do to them if they don't give him everything that he asks for, which obviously everyone can hear because she's like standing right around the corner, so there's not even any point in having her be some kind of secret mole. And true to fashion, of course, because Lilith is literally just around the corner from everyone else and an audio clip is being played on a freaking IMAX speaker, Tina overhears it, gets upset, and blows Lilith up, seemingly killing her. Except, not quite. She wakes up the morning after to see Claptrap still there. Bro's literally hitting an emote on her, bro. I'm done, I'm cooked. Bro hit her with the get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts. Defeated, she goes to her old home. Claptrap sees a drawing she made as a child of the Firehawk of legend. Her mother was willing to die for. He does that thing every futuristic robot in a movie can do for some reason. No, but actually the hologram he shows her is one Lilith's mom prepared for when she died. She tells her how much she loved her, how much she wishes she could be there for her, which for some reason was set to only be shown if Lilith found herself in this incredibly hyper-specific set of circumstances. I mean, like, what if she just decided to be a banker and just never went back to Pandora? She would just die, resenting her mom. She's already spent like 40 years doing that. I mean, like, I guess I can't expect much from the character that is literally not given a name. She's literally credited in the end credits of this movie as Lilith's mom, like the freaking Fairly Odd Parents. Somehow, this teaches Lilith that she's the Firehawk and the actual Iridian siren, not Tina. She turns around, ready to save the day. Meanwhile, Tina, Tannis, and Krieg find the vault only for nothing to happen. Atlas reveals himself alongside his legion of soldiers and orders them to kill her. Just then, Roland reveals that he didn't actually die and shoots at Atlas. When that doesn't work, Nox has a change of heart and tells all of the soldiers to stand down, only for Atlas to vaporize her. Just then, Lilith shows up like Piccolo at the end of a Dragon Ball Z movie to save the day and reveals she's a siren. Lilith makes the choice to sacrifice herself so the vault could be opened, but then they realize the sacrifice actually doesn't kill anyone. Atlas gets impatient and threatens to kill them, so Lilith blasts him with her powers. A fight breaks out that ends with everyone on the verge of dying until they unanimously decide to lock in for the climax. Atlas kidnaps Tina and takes her into the vault. Lilith follows after her and uses her powers that she can somehow use perfectly to put him in the freaking infinite Tsukuyomi. Tina, the 14-year-old girl, somehow beats him up. He's left to the Dolores Umbridge fate, and thus ends the conflict of this movie. To celebrate, they throw the most mid party I've seen in my entire life. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. Even the extras are bored. Also, Scooter and Ellie are here. I hope you absorbed that. I've literally given them more screen time than the actual movie does. They have a conversation on the roof where Tina asks Lilith to fly. She makes fireworks, and that's the end of the Borderlands movie. And you're welcome. I just spent 40 hours to save you too. I'll take that like now. That's gotta be worth at least a like, right? Chapter 2. Thoughts. I'll give this movie a point. It's easily one of the most consistent films I've seen in my entire life. consistently mid that is. There's nothing about this movie that makes you feel. Every emotional moment is drowned with characters you just don't care about. I actually think that Tina could have worked in this movie. I think Ariana Greenblatt is a talented actress. Ironically enough, I think the way to do that is to make her as crazy as her Borderlands counterpart. There's a reason why Roland's funeral hits so hard in the games. Seeing the typically neurotic Tiny Tina act so sobered when she has to come to terms with the fact that her friend is dead. That dichotomy really sells the gravity of the scene. When they think Roland died in this movie, they barely even react.
Hey, Roland's gonna be okay, right?
He's an elite soldier. If anyone can get out of there, it's him.
And it's the same reaction that you get as the audience. He's just there, and it means nothing. I actually think Kevin Hart can act when he's ready. He doesn't show it here, which is insane because he reportedly got paid $20 million for this. You have a character whose whole identity is based around giving other people hope, so his development should center on his ability to do that. When the other characters don't have a believable bond with him, his existence means nothing. He literally saves Krieg and Tina at the beginning, and they don't explore this relationship any more than they travel together. Speaking of which, you have the psycho trapped in his own mind, and we don't even take 1 second to establish the eternal torment he's in. This is what Krieg is like in the games.
I want to tell him to run, to hide, to get out of sight so I won't have to kill him. That's what I want to say. What actually comes out of my mouth is, I have the shiniest meat bicycle! Now tell her thank you. Tell her that because of her, we might actually one day be able to act like a normal person again. I powdered my cockatiel for the ribcage slaughter. Huh. Close enough.
You see the issue? They keep taking all the wacky stuff about Borderlands without actually understanding why we care. This isn't South Park. People don't like this franchise for just the jokes. There's something sincere about Borderlands that the movie just misses. This cast is a mixed bag. It's not all bad, but what is bad is horrible. I like Cate Blanchett, she kills hella, but this is one of the worst casting decisions I've seen in my life. The only similarities between the character and the actress is that they're both white women, which brings me to talk about Lilith. Lilith is the biggest wasted potential in this entire film, because I actually think the story they wanted to tell with her is good on paper. Her mommy issues defined her life and the choices she makes, but this is an instance where I actually think her being played by a younger actress would have served the story better. Make her a hothead who develops over time and is rewarded for it. Lilith in this movie is so half-baked, it's honestly sad. Mr. Arad, you could have still cast Cate Blanchett in this movie. Commandant Steele was right there, and you decided an original villain who I had to Google the name for is better somehow? Add in Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, and I still couldn't tell you what she contributed to the plot. I don't even think she could. Half the time it looks like she walked on the wrong set. And that brings me to my last point, nobody cared. Let's look at a movie they originally wanted to model this film after, Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians 2 is one of my favorite films of all time, and everything in it screams passion. Complete and utter eye candy, engaging and purposeful actions, jokes that land, and a cast that actually feels like a found family, not just actors taking a check. There's not much fan service to make the gamers happy, and what fan service is there is so incredibly niche and back of the mind that I literally found out about most of it through the research for this video. I didn't know Scooter was in this movie until I saw the cast, and even then, I thought it was probably a Blu-ray exclusive because they just don't even call attention to it. They don't even reference the guns, which is like 40% of this franchise, one of the staples of the series. In a world where there are rocket launchers that you reload by throwing that same rocket launcher, they just decide to stick to cool looking pistols and regular looking assault rifles. Couple that with the fact that they don't explain anything or flesh out anything to the wider audience who I'm assuming that this movie was made for. Except I watched this movie twice. Once by myself, a semi-decent fan of the Borderlands series, and once with my mom who has very little experience with video games, zero experience on the Borderlands franchise. And we were both left with the exact same experience, that being nothing. I think if we were to definitively answer why the Borderlands movie failed, it is because, simply put, I don't think anyone understands Borderlands anymore. Borderlands was never a successful series just for the jokes, or just for the gameplay, or just for the story. It was its own unique style and theme that dared to be something unique and blended all of these traits perfectly together. It takes a lot of passion and effort to adapt anything, and I just don't think that's shown in the product. This movie was bad because nobody cared. So what went wrong? Who goofed? Who's losing their job? Well, with more context now, let's double back a little bit. To give him some credit, Avi Arad has actually produced a lot of really good films as well. This dude has been producer or executive producer on over 41 movies over the last 27 years.
This is Israeli, am I right? Wow. As a Jew, Do I have a chance to make it in the entertainment industry?
Never.
The man worked on literally every Spider-Man movie except for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, including Spider-Verse. He has a particular niche and he's good at it. That niche just isn't things that need a particular kind of attention, and that's okay. I don't expect a 76-year-old man to be well versed in anime. But Hollywood, please, why do we keep hiring people to work on passion projects that aren't passionate about the projects? This movie had over 9 credited screenwriters over the course of the film's decade-long production. With that many differences in vision, passion, and styles, you're bound to get a lot of conflict when it comes to the actual making of the movie. So when a director is chosen, the one the film settles on is the Bear Jew from Inglourious Basterds. Eli Roth is a good director for horror film, and once again, that's perfectly okay, that's his niche. But in a world where we see more and more successful adaptations of nerdier things, maybe give one of them a try. This is like if I had a fun-loving children's show with a colorful cast, deep spiritual themes, repentance, and love, and I let M. Night Shyamalan direct it. Oh wait, too soon? What resulted was this disjointed movie that had to get weeks of reshoots, divided attention, a lackluster script, and a boring experience that doesn't want to market itself to the fans, but also doesn't want to market itself to the general movie-going audience either. This movie had problems from start to finish. I feel like the Borderlands movie highlights a wider issue with adaptations and Hollywood as a whole. The passion is dead. We need to break $1 billion profit margin. We need to have quippy remarks only written to be part of the trailer. We need to hire the exact same actors in every movie to make a return. Hollywood prioritizes these over actually telling a good story nowadays. It seems more and more rare to finish a movie and feel that old magic. The want for a sequel, the pure fun that makes you think about it as you go to bed, an experience where you leave the theater and can't help but talk about it with the people you love. I watched this movie on a 7-hour flight, and by the time it was over, I just thought, bro, I should have just stayed asleep. Now, mind you, with all of these negatives said, this movie is still filled to the brim with talent. This series is filled with talent, and it has the potential to still succeed. The Suicide Squad did it. Just launch a TV show in a couple of years. Get some fan consultations. I mean, you know, hire your boy as a writer-producer. While I was writing this script, it really dawned on me that we are in the blessed timeline still. This movie sucked, but comparing it to every other video game adaptation from the last 2 years, you realize this is more of the outlier than the norm now. I don't think the franchise is dead. In fact, during the writing of this script, the trailer for the Borderlands 4 came out. I have faith it can catch itself. And who knows, this might not be the last time we see Pandora in live action. A boy can only hope, right?